Hey everybody, this is Radish Head and welcome back to Upland Analysis. This is a video that I've been meaning to make for a little while now. Upland announced some changes to the way they were going to be handling businesses in the future, now called Metaventures, and some changes to the way that we'd be interacting with businesses, setting them up, stuff like that. And I think they're really interesting changes, and I wanted to talk about them because we're actually due the first set of Metaventures pretty soon, according to the roadmap. It'll be Q1 2022, I believe, and that'll be the first edition of Metaventures where we'll be able to set up a shop and place our, block explorers or legits or whatever decor in the shops, and people will be able to buy and sell them, and it will just add a whole new dynamic to the Upland economy. So when that comes out, man, I'm going to be busy because there's going to be a lot to think about in terms of the value of these legits and NFTs themselves, as well as the impact that businesses will have on the value of different cities. That's really interesting. So in preparation for that, let's just talk about these proposed changes to how Metaventures will work and what I think that could mean for Metaventures when they come out. So at a very top level, and I'll link this article here in the description in case you haven't seen it, but before this article came out, this announcement came out, the idea was that there'd be a limited number of business licenses. I think they were floating that it'll be worth about 5 million UPIX to buy a business license, and that would be an actual NFT that you would own. You could sell it and trade it to other people, and you'd need a business license to operate in a city. So that basically meant that only the real top players would ever have a business, and even then you've got to invest quite a significant amount of money or UPIX in order to set up a business. And Upland basically decided that wasn't really in the spirit of what Upland is all about. It could lead to some unforeseen consequences where people just hold on to the licenses and don't actually use them because they might want to wait it out and see how the market's looking before setting up business somewhere. And I agree. I was never a huge fan of the business license model myself. I wanted to get involved in a business myself, and I probably wouldn't be able to do that if it was 5 million UPIX. And I just liked the idea of having a dynamic economy where everybody was able to participate in this, very exciting part of the metaverse. So, what have they changed it to? Well, the idea is that instead of having a limited number of business licenses, anybody can set up a business anywhere. Presumably they'd be run from a structure, so you'd have to have a property with a townhouse or something on it, but aside from that, there's no license required. You don't have to pay any money up front, and instead of paying your money up front, you actually pay what they're calling venture dues, which is calculated based on the median UPIX contribution made from business owners of the same type in the same locale to the Upland community pool. So that basically means, well, my interpretation of this means that if you've got block explorer shops, for example, they'd all be shops of the same type, and the city would be the locale. So all block explorer shops within the same city are kind of competing with each other, and at the end of the month, Upland kind of calculates how much the median business contributed to the community pool. So if you don't know what that's all about, when you buy and sell properties in Upland, you've got like a 5% fee that basically vanishes into the community pool, and that'll be similar when you're buying and selling things from these businesses as well. There'll be a fee that will go into the pool. What they're saying is they'll calculate how much these fees for the same type of shop in the same city go into the pool, and then that will calculate how much each business got paid at the end of the month. That immediately raises quite an interesting point that actually there will be relative winners and relative losers in every city for every type of shop, because it's based off the median value, right? That means that half the people with shops of that type in that city will be paying, as a percentage of their profits, a higher amount than the others. So that in itself is quite interesting, and it encourages quite a lot of competition there in that sector. So if you get wind that the community pool contribution, the median, is a lot higher than your community pool contribution, then you'll know that your shop isn't doing as well as the average, and you might want to move elsewhere. So I think that lends a really interesting bit of free market dynamics to it, which is ultimately what Upland is all about, which I think is really cool. And they've released a table here where different cities will have different amounts of business capacity, and that's kind of based off the size of the city. It's based off this new city tiering system, which is based off size, cost, and like iconic factor. So what that's basically saying is that large iconic cities like Chicago, for example, will be able to hold a lot more businesses within its borders than a small, not so iconic city. I don't know. I don't want to name any names. Fresno. I think it's fair to say that you'll be able to have more businesses competing with each other in Chicago than Fresno. And that raises some interesting possibilities, because if you are like well below the amount of businesses that you can hold in a city of that specific type, let's say you are the only Block Explorer shop in Fresno, like it doesn't matter that the city can't hold that many. If you're the only one, like, you're laughing. You'd be at like 10% capacity. You'd be contributing like no tax, and people will sort of look over there and they're like, well, I don't really think about Fresno very much, but I don't like the fact that that guy is able to have his prices really low because he's paying like a zero venture dues. And similarly, you'll get some cities that are like extremely hot and everybody wants to compete there. Like Manhattan, for example. I'm sure people would love to set up a business in Manhattan, but the reality is, as you exceed the 100% business capacity within a region, these percentage of median contributions starts to go up exponentially. So it's going to be pretty cutthroat, and I love it. I'm not sure what I'm going to be doing in terms of businesses, if I'm going to set one up or if I'm going to sort of try to. I think it could actually set up like merchants who actually travel from, cheap parts of the map where people don't travel as often, there's not as many businesses set up, and therefore the taxes are quite low. Buy cheap explorers there, and then like sell them to players who can then sell them in more more desirable shops where they get more footfall and they can charge a higher amount for that. I could totally see dedicated like traveling merchant players. I feel like that's going to be a new archetype of player. You can that'll be my radish prediction for the video. I'm looking out for merchants. That'll be fun. Get those air miles in. But yeah, that is all part of this new dynamic economy, and the fact that people can set up businesses anywhere is just going to resurrect like some of these older cities that people don't really think about so much, and like the locations within that city are going to be really important. So I think this new approach to Metaventures is fantastic. It means that everybody can take part. It means we're going to have different we're going to get like clusters of like different like value products So realistically, you're probably going to have the most expensive, sought-after product in Manhattan because it's going to get lots of footfall, and you need to sell more expensive stuff there to, to pay for your median contribution. Whereas if you just want to go buy some lower tier stuff, you might go to a lower tier city because the prices will be cheaper there for the business owners and for the customers. And people are just going to be like moving around. It's gonna, I don't know. I feel like it's going to add a lot of. I keep saying the word. It's going to make the economy a lot more dynamic, and I'm really looking forward to seeing that develop further and being able to talk about it on the channel. So I hope you're as excited as I am about Metaventures, and I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments, and I'll definitely be reporting on this more in the future as we hear more. So if you want to keep an ear out for that, then give me a like on the video and consider subscribing to the channel. But until next time, I'll see you then.